Hey, my name is Thomas and look what I've got for you today. It's the Brightin Star 50mm f/0.95 lens for full frame. So I'm shooting this on a Nikon Z7 today. This is like the by far cheapest f/0.95 lens. It appeared on the market like 2 years ago and I'm super excited to give this one a try. Let's have a go. Disclaimer, I got this lens from Brightin Star for the purpose of doing a review. Many thanks for your support. As always, I will give my honest opinion and I will show you a lot of sample shots within this video, so you can also judge for yourself if you like the look and the quality of this lens, or yeah, if it is for you or maybe not. So there are several sub $1,000 or sub €1,000 f/0.95 lenses by now, but this lens retails for less than $400 or euros, and that's really a low price. It's of course a pretty classic design. That means it doesn't have any spherical lens elements or something. It's got 10 lens elements in 9 groups. And it also doesn't have internal focusing or floating lens elements, none of that. It is a classic lens, so I also expect it to perform like a classic f/0.95. The very first ever Leica Noctilux comes to mind. But yes, we have to find that out now. Quack, quack, quack. It's hard to manual focus this. Like all the different manual focus lenses from the various Chinese manufacturers, this one is made from a metal. Everything is metal, at least from the outside. I didn't dismantle it, but I assume inside it's also metal and glass. It's a fully manual lens. This one's for Nikon Z, of course. No electric contacts. If you're using this on your mirrorless body and you want to use the IBIS, you have to enter the focal length of the lens in the camera menu, otherwise IBIS won't work. The aperture has click stops and it runs all the way down to 22, which is a huge range. Click stops are at every full aperture. They feel a little bit mushy. It's not the nicest feeling, but they work. Focusing, it claims 0.5 meters, but actually you measure from here and then it's 63 centimeters, not 50. That's a bit unfortunate. And yeah, sliding lens hood is nice. It's also a bit wobbly, but it works. It's good that it's there. And from the front, you've got your huge lens element. What I do like is that at least my sample has a hard stop at infinity and it's almost perfectly adjusted. Note that this 0.95 lens doesn't perform well at infinity. That's not what it's made for. I suggest you stop down to at least f2, then the image center at infinity right at your hard stop is perfectly sharp. So that's a good thing. Overall, nice handling, and beware, this is a pretty hefty lens. It's pretty heavy. With the Nikon Z6 and Z7, it's actually a pain in the ass to enter manual focus, the information for manual focus lenses. You have to go to this menu with this tool symbol on it, and then there is a point data for lenses without CPU. Sorry, my camera is set up in German here. And then you give your lenses various numbers from 1 through 20. And for each of these you have to here click, adjust the focal length and the maximum aperture. That's just for your EXIF information. And as you see, Nikon didn't think of f0.95. It's impossible for them. So I entered f1.2 here. Note that this is only for your EXIF, but the focal length, this information is needed, otherwise your IBIS doesn't work. And if you didn't do this before you put on your first manual focus lens, then the IBIS won't work at all and you won't find out why. So remember to set up your manual lenses in this submenu first. That's Nikon. I tend to shoot everything not just at f0.95 but also f1.4 and f2, because at 0.95 your depth of field is so freaking thin, it sometimes doesn't even look so good. But you've got the choice. So what I did now is just an aperture range between f0.95 and f2.8 to find out about vignetting. As you will see, vignetting is pretty severe at f0.95. That is a characteristic this lens shares with almost every other f0.95 lens. The corners in your frame will look very dark. You can correct for that in post, but you have to keep in mind it's an optical characteristic. Already at f1.4 it will get much better, and around f2.8 it's almost solved. That is shot at f8. In that shot you will also see that the very far corners in your frame are always a little bit darker. So I assume that the image circle that this was calculated for is a little bit tight for the full frame sensor. But yeah, you have to live with that. One thing that I really do not like about this lens is the distortion. The distortion itself is not too hefty. It's like you can correct that in post around +7, +8, and Photoshop will do the job. But no, it's not going to do the job, because this lens has moustache distortion and it's really visible. So the lines go like straight, then bulge out, and then they straighten up again. And when you're correcting it, you can correct the bulging part, but then the outer parts go like this, and you really see that. And if you see it, then it kind of ruins the shot, really. I really don't like that. Also notice that when you focus closer, the distortion itself gets even stronger, and then you maybe need something around +12 to correct. But that's not the problem. You can correct for it. The mustache distortion, that is the problem that I don't like. So overall sharpness I don't find that bad at f/0.95. Yes, it is soft and there is huge fall off towards the corners, but that is to be expected, and it's part of the look that you maybe are looking for. At f/1.4 it's already pretty sharp in the center. f/0.95 is not unsharp, but you see that there is a lot of there is a haze over the image, if you know what I mean. So f/0.95 is not tech sharp, f/1.4 is almost tech sharp, f2 is super tech sharp. That's in line with other similar lenses. If you're shooting very up close, like the 63 centimeter close focus limit, then sharpness goes much worse, and it's a really soft image at f/0.95, and you will close down to maybe around f2 to get it to a decent sharpness level. That is because there is no internal focusing, no floating lens elements. Of all the lenses below 1,000 euro, the only one I'm aware of with close focusing, internal focusing feature is the Laowa August 45mm f/0.95. All the other ones will have a similar problem to this one. So again, it's not a deal breaker. And keep in mind, you're not going to shoot f/0.95 at the close focus limit very often, because the depth of field is so razor thin, it almost always looks a bit too much. So I took a full aperture range of this tree motif with a tower in the background from f/0.95 to f8, and you see how it sharpens up around f2 in the center and the central spots. It's really tack sharp, and at f8 it's actually really sharp all over the frame. Only the last few pixels in the very far outer corners are a little bit unsharp. Again, I think the image circle, the calculation for the image circle was a little bit tight. But many lenses have that, unfortunately. And of course, if you wouldn't have that, then the lens elements presumably would be even bigger and larger and everything more heavy. But again, at f8 this lens is surprising well. I'm not thinking that anyone is going to buy this to take landscape shots, but actually you can do that very well. A short word about bokeh. As you can see in the shots, there is not only a lot of vignetting going on in the corners, but also the image sort of sharpens up in the corners. So you get super soft bokeh. For example, if you take a portrait just behind your subject, the person, but towards the corners, it kind of gets sharp again. That is maybe a mixture of the geometric vignetting that also causes the darkening in the corners, that in effect makes this a lens that's maybe f2.8 or something in the corners, even wide open. Most f/0.95 lenses have that problem, and also there might be field curvature going on. Anyhow, you have to live with this peculiar characteristic. Either you find it characterful or you don't like it. Straylight performance is of course not the strong point of this lens. As almost every other f/0.95 lens, this is super prone to flaring and all sorts of effects going on whenever you have a strong light source. Have a look at my sample photos. I'm always divided here how to judge that, because on the one hand it is of course an optical fault, on the other hand it can be super entertaining to try out and to use this optical fault to create unique looking images. Actually, that's up to you. If you're looking for a lens with a solid Straylight performance, then this lens is not going to be for you. Time for the verdict. Is this lens for you or not? That is the big question. You've seen the qualities, what it delivers, and I think actually for a 0.95 lens with no aspheric lens elements, nothing super high-end like, I don't know, Zeiss Otus Nikon Noct 58mm. This lens performs pretty well. In the sub €1,000 category, it's maybe almost on par with all the other offerings. Maybe the Laowa Argus 45 is a little bit better, especially close range, but overall, yeah, it's a solid performer as far as f/0.95 lenses go. But again, this is almost €400 or dollars, and you can get a pretty decent lens that's maybe f1.4 or f1.8 with autofocus that is optically even better overall. So my personal advice would be get a Nikon 58 f1.8 with autofocus, get a Sony 50mm, get a Canon 50mm with autofocus first. If you've got it all, if you're looking for an extra lens that can do some special things and you like the look, you like to experiment with the speed, then this lens is a very good buy, and then I would recommend it to you. But if you're just looking for a 50mm lens because you don't have that many lenses yet, then I would pass on this one. That's my recommendation. And by the way, I maybe forgot to say before, this is really super fast. So we compared it to the Nikon 40mm f2, and this lens is a true 1.8 f-stops faster than the Nikon 40mm f2, and that's actually a very good solid performance in terms of brightness. Most of these super fast lenses won't be in reality a full f-stop faster than, let's say, an f1.4 or f2, but this lens is super fast, so that's a good thing. And that's it for today. I hope you found this interesting, maybe even useful. If you did so, then please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. It's a huge support for my channel. I really appreciate that. If you've got any questions or comments, write something in the comment section below. I love to read all your comments. I will happily answer every single one of them. So have a great time, live long and prosper, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.